Today is a good day. I'm feeling good. I know I can get in here and get these endorphins going. Let's go in here and let's lift some weights.
If the last year or so of life has taught us anything, it's that it can be very easy to fall into a depression because of how the world is treating you and others. From political matters that make you wonder if your country will ever be well again, to brutality by police on people just trying to create change, a global pandemic that has taken millions of lives and devastated economies and more, it's honestly very easy to get into a state of depression. But getting out of it can be as easy as you want to make it if you're willing to take the steps. Allow us to show you ways to fight depression that can make you feel happy again. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Number 1. Accepting your depression.
Depression. It's not your weight to carry. My feelings tell me that existing is overwhelming, but my thoughts do not own me, and I do not owe them. I am done being chained to the things that depression wants me to believe.
Let's start out with what might seem like a simple step, but it's arguably the hardest step of the lot. Because when it comes to depression, it's very easy to say, I'm not depressed. Part of the mental illness is you being in such a funk or sadness that you don't want to admit that you're depressed. You'll go and pass it off on other things. You'll say, I'm just not in the mood, or that I'm having an off day, or off week. You'll build up defenses to try and make it seem like nothing is wrong in the overall, and when that happens and you don't get better, you'll rely on those walls even more. You need to go and meet yourself where you are mentally and accept that everything is not all right, that everything is not fine with you, that it's okay to be depressed based on what's going on in your life or in the lives of others, and that you know you need to get better. If you can do that first major step, you'll start to think of ways to get out of your state and back into your regular life. Again, this is a hard step to take, and most don't do it. That's why they stay depressed. Fight that urge to deflect and admit your issue, then move on to getting better. Number 2, express yourself in a good way.
You know, that guy's nuts. You know, it was in Spanish, so the equivalent of that, está loco. And how it was kind of something that was fair game to be made fun of. So, you know, I didn't notice that at the time, but in hindsight, I look at it and I go, well, that might be the reason that I didn't speak about it.
Anyone who has felt depressed or is told about depression will likely hear the bad advice of keeping it in. That holding it in will help you in some ways, but that's not true at all. Not unlike a pressure cooker, if you build up too much pressure, it'll burst. And if you're in a depressed state and you burst, people will get hurt physically or emotionally, and that'll just add to the pain you're feeling. As such, if you're depressed, go and express what's wrong with you, but do it in a way that'll make you feel better. For example, write it out. Talk out loud about how you're feeling, even if it's just to the air or to yourself. It'll help. Once you're done expressing how you feel, don't wallow in it for long afterwards. Give the feeling its time, and then go and move on to something more productive or fun. That way, you know your feelings aren't buried and you'll feel free enough to do something even more constructive. Number 3, time flows on.
And I remember just the feeling of it's going to be okay. And not that the depression would be taken away, but that I wouldn't feel like I was fighting alone anymore.
Another element of depression that can weigh on people is that it seems like the feeling never ends, that the depression will never go away, and when someone has a bad day on top of that depression, it just adds to the feeling that nothing will end like it should. But that's not the right way to look at it. Time is always moving forward, and as a result, what may seem like a bad string of days is a thought that betrays what might come next. You need to accept that you had a bad day with your depression, but leave yourself open to the beauty that the next day may bring you. If you fear every new day, you won't get better. So take on the day as it happens and see how you feel after it. Number 4, don't lump bad and good together.
When we diagnose a mental illness, there are certain criteria that you meet.
To be clinically significant, it has to cause problems in your life or your ability to function in some way. Because a lot of people experience those same things at a lower level, but when they reach that level where it's beginning to impact their daily lives for a long enough period of time, then it would warrant a diagnosis.
When you're in a depressed state, it can be very easy to go and look at one bad thing that happened and have it overshadow all the positive and fun things you did. This is a dangerous thing and something that should be avoided. Now, yes, there are major bad events that can absolutely overshadow good things, like being in a car accident, losing a loved one, etc. And it's okay to feel the day was a total loss because of events like that. However, most days don't have that at all. Some days just have little bad spots that suddenly feel like black holes because of your depression. Fight that urge to make the bad seem bigger than it is, and to move on with your day and life. Number 5, depression voice.
Depression. I hate it. And I hate the word. It doesn't get the right idea at all. Feeling a bit low? Down in the dumps? Oh, you must be depressed then. Nothing a hot bath or rosy apple won't solve. No, I needed much stronger words.
Because depression is a mental issue, it has its own thought patterns and wavelengths. As such, in a depressed state, you'll hear what is known as depression voice. This is when your mind tells you not to do certain things because it'll go wrong or make you feel worse. Instead, you need to resist that voice and counter it with things like logic. So that way, even if you hear that voice, it has no power over you. Number 6, take small steps to be active.
Thing that keeps one living is a sense of future, that there will be a tomorrow, and tomorrow I've got to do this, and then the day after I've got to do that.
Get started.
Some would argue that you being active is the best way to go and fight depression, but that won't work for everyone, and sometimes being active is the cause of depression in certain ways, like with job and family. However, once in a depressed state, you'll have the desire to just lie around with your thoughts, and that can be dangerous. As such, if you don't feel up to doing big things, do small things. Go wash the dishes, take out the trash, walk your pet if you have one. Do something physical that is simple yet engaging. Because once you're done, you might feel the urge to do something else while you're up, and that could lead you to being drawn out of your depression. Number 7, recognize your progress.
See it as you see winter, and winter always leads to spring and summer again. See it as you see nighttime. Nighttime becomes daytime again.
When training animals, a common tool is that of positive reinforcement. You reward them for doing simple or even small things to let them know that doing good gets you a treat. As such, that's what you need to do with your depression. Take small steps, recognize when you're doing good, and reward yourself. It can be something as simple as watching an episode of TV or doing something on YouTube, and so on and so forth. By rewarding your progress, you'll want to keep going so you can keep getting those happy feelings. Number 8, do a constructive routine.
And the reason you've got to exercise every day is because what we know about human beings is that when you physically move, your physiology changes, and that changes your brain.
Depression has a nasty habit of going and disrupting how you do things during your day. Routine isn't always the best thing for depression, and it can feel like a life in repeat. But if you do the routine the right way, you'll find yourself making little pit stops to do things that make you happy, or taking care of yourself alongside your work, and thus be reaching a better mental state as a result. It doesn't have to be an excessive routine or a rigorous one. Just do one that'll keep you going and not staying in one place all day. Number 9, know you're not alone.
What worked for me in the end was not something I could have planned for. The thing that was probably the biggest impact for me in sort of changing my psychology and changing sort of my outlook is being more open with everybody.
Easily the biggest problem with depression is the feeling that you're alone in the world. That no one out there will know what you are feeling and going through, and thus, the weight of that crushes you. But that's the depression voice talking. Just about everyone in the world has gone through depression, big or small. Sometimes, life just sucks, and it gets us all down. Yes, even us making this video right now. But knowing that you're not alone and that others will understand, you take a big step forward. Especially if that step leads you to number 10, confide in others.
And because depression's symptoms are intangible, it's hard to know who might look fine but is actually struggling. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, it takes the average person suffering with a mental illness over 10 years to ask for help. But there are very effective treatments. Medications and therapy complement each other to boost brain chemicals.
When you're feeling like you're alone, you want to fortify that feeling by not talking to anyone because you fear that they'll judge you. But again, that's the depression voice talking. You need to fight that voice and go and talk with others. Whether it be a family member, a friend, a coworker you trust, a mentor, someone online that you've connected with in a good way, you have options. By talking about it, you give yourself options and allow yourself to know that if something gets worse in your mind, they'll listen to you. And that's very valuable when dealing with depression. Number 11, do the little things to make you happy.
I did a big Facebook post saying, "Hello everybody, it's me. I've been very depressed and suicidal. How are you?" And then sort of ran away from my laptop, like I just released some sort of naked photos on the internet. But, not only was there's lots of loving feedback coming back, but it was this sort of liberation that I have taken control of the thing that I'm hiding from, and it's now mine.
People sometimes forget how simple it can be to be happy. Most people assume that only big moments can make you truly happy, but that's not true at all. Listening to a song you love, eating a favorite snack, or preparing a favorite meal, going out to something like a movie. These can all help you get better. Whenever you're feeling depression getting a hold on you, go and do a small thing to make you happy. That memory and feeling will linger. And even if you have to do it multiple times during the day, you'll get through the day, and that makes it worth it. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at the ways you can get out of depression and start to be happy again? Do you think that these steps are good and that you or someone you know will use them to try and get out of their state? Do you think that there are better methods to go and get out of depression? If so, what are they? Let us know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the channel. Take care of yourself.